So, good morning, everybody. Oh, I see. Oh.
Well, you are very patient people. That's a good sign. I want to offer all of you a warm welcome on behalf of the Office of Religious Life at MIT. We represent a large and diverse religious and spiritual tradition here on campus, which offers a platform to the wider community to ask the important questions of meaning and happiness, questions that complement the scientific rigor of this institute by nurturing a community in aspects of character development, compassion, and service. These are things that His Holiness is concerned with and that all of you are concerned with as well. The conversation here at MIT between science and religion has been an integral part of the life of the Institute for decades. But it took on a new turn when in 2007, the Institute appointed the first chaplain to the Institute. I have the opportunity to occupy that position in its formative years. James Killian, a former president of MIT, had long ago made the point when the chapel was dedicated, and he said that this building gives an embodiment to the responsibility of MIT to maintain an atmosphere of religious freedom. I congratulate Prajnopaya and the Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi for his vision and his dedication to MIT. It's our privilege, Your Holiness, to welcome you back with your shoes on or your shoes off. We are delighted to have you here. We appreciate your presence, your blessings, and your encouragement. This is the 10th anniversary of Prajnopaya, the Buddhist ministry. It is a healthy, vibrant, and warm community that educates and supports student life here at MIT. And the Office of Religious Life is delighted to welcome you here. Thank you very much.
Indeed, I'm very happy. As an opportunity to explain about Buddha Dharma, or I usually prefer Buddhist philosophy. At a time, we really want to build harmony among different traditions. It is quite useful to know the structure or the concept of other traditions. Then we can develop genuine harmony among different traditions on the basis of mutual respect. According to my own experience, the more acquaintance with Christian brothers, sisters, and Muslim, mainly brothers, and Jewish and Hindus, different Hindus and Jains and sick. It's more acquaintance, more closer sort of contact, and sort of learn their concept or their teachings, and then mainly observe their sort of way of life. That's sort of very powerful to develop deeper understanding with that admiration and respect. So then we can develop genuine, respect, admiration. That does not mean you also say faith or belief. That is something different. Respect and faith, essentially different thing. Faith with your own tradition. Respect all other tradition. So get more information about value or viewpoint or reasons of other tradition. It's useful. And then also, obviously, according to my own experience and also experience some of my close friends, some Catholic monk or some Christians, and also some Muslims, even Muslims, and some other sort of religious follower. You see, they also carry some practice, which essentially that practice come from Buddhism. So that's okay. We Buddhists also, you see, particularly Buddhist monks, nuns, should learn some of the practice of Christian monks, nuns. Mainly, the serving the society in education field and health field. Really wonderful. In 1960s, they try to convince our monastic sort of people and also nuns, should engage active role in education field and health, like Christian brothers, sisters do. Right? So there is more close contact, not remain distance. Sometimes remain distance with some suspicion. No use. Live together, closer. So, some sort of practice, a Buddhist practice, is actually common. Practice of love, compassion, certain training of mind, or single-pointed mind. These are, the common practice. And some unique things. Many years ago in Paris, discuss one, I think Catholic leader, I think Archbishop maybe. He really tried to convince me about Creator. At another occasion, in India, one Hindu sect or a group when they invited me go their ashram or their center, so quite long drive. So one of their centers, the person, teachers who speak English very well, So she accompanied with me, and long drive. She also tried to convince me about their own faith. So I think that case, I think 1 hour, explained about their own philosophical views and a lot of explanation. Then I little get irritation. then I responded, oh yes, there are so many different religious traditions, different philosophical views. Yes, there are many. Then she stopped, silence. So I think, frankly speaking, their effort to bring conviction about their own faith, that's, I think, unnecessary effort or useless effort. At the meantime, I never try to anyone try to develop conviction, convince about this Buddhist sort of concept. I never try. It's up to individual. Religious faith must come voluntarily, not this is something pushing or pursue. So whenever I give some sort of lecture on Buddhism in traditionally non-Buddhist countries, I always make clear. You can take, as I mentioned earlier, some sort of common points, common practice you can take, but your basic sort of faith must preserve your own traditional way. That's much safer. I often see mentioning one sort of example. In early 60s, when Tibetan refugee community, then very, very difficult, not yet sort of properly settled. So facility very poor, and the way earning is road work. So at that time, very difficult situation. So one family, her sort of husband passed away. Then the mother with a few children, I think 2 or 3 children, very small children, young children. So then, very difficult in road workers, as a road worker, and taking care of these children. Really, because understandable, it's very difficult. So then I think 60, maybe 63, 64, one day she came and told me about her sort of difficulties. And then she told me, but in the meantime, there was a lot of help from Christian organizations. And then her 2 or 3 children, one Christian missionary, took care about their education. So she really feels grateful. So then she told me, for this life, now she become Christian. Next life, she will be Buddhist. So that's the clear sign of confusion. There's some Christian, one Polish lady, who I think after sort of Second World War, she escaped from Poland and then stayed in India and joined Theosophy in Madras, Theosophy. So since 56, we know, then we become friend. Then after 59, this is she really showing interest about Tibet sort of condition or Tibet sort of situation. And eventually she really helped the education for Tibetan children. Then eventually she became Buddhist. She accepted Buddhism as a sort of religious belief. But at the time of her death, the concept of creator, concept of God, seems to see more stronger. So that also sign of confusion, like that. So it is better to keep one's own tradition. Meantime, out of millions of people, like Tibetan, I think 99% are Buddhist. And some use Buddhism. But this Buddhism, unlike ancient time, the later after Buddhism flourished in Tibet, the Buddhism also developed highly. So much sort of the mixed like that. So only different name like that. So, but some Tibetan, I think, at least last 4 centuries, since some Muslim come from Ladakh area, so they settled there. So some Tibetan become Islam, Muslim. Okay. Out of sort of say several thousand people, there's some. Due to the condition or their mental disposition, they become the follower of other tradition. That's okay. That's possible. So, among Judeo-Christian background society, there are some people who sincerely, attract towards Buddhist way of approach. Then in such case, you must keep your deep respect towards your previous religion. That's important. Then, like all religions, like all other religions, Buddhism also very much emphasis about altruism, compassion, love. Then, I think since Buddha's own time, Buddha very much respect the different mental disposition of the audience. So, the Dodi Langra Shibanal, the high tech, the Sangbe tech, that teaching to the 60 to the Yandu take or Ransanji take or Chanjusan take was. And tissue the Chisi Namdo Rik Damandra Yaba Tisido, take by Namdran, any Kasurta, the Mongolian. This one. So the Garson was Lavina, Tempachix against Mamache. Kanda sources come the Mabat, Naso Yava in Zane, come the Mabat Ted Sunday, and it Tapashima Naso Yungshi such.
For example, in Langavatara Sutra, Buddha speaks about the various kinds of spiritual vehicles. He talks about the vehicle of the Brahmas, vehicle of human beings, and vehicles for the disciples, self-enlightened beings, and the bodhisattvas, and so on. And then in that stanza, the Buddha also says that as a conclusion, so long as there will exist a diversity in the mentality and mental dispositions of sentient beings, there will always be a multiplicity and plurality of spiritual vehicles. Mm-hmm. So therefore, the point Buddha is making is that when it comes to spiritual path, the emphasis should not be on the idea of a single path, or one truth.
Mm-hmm. 당내 통주를 때 섬이 태과세하기 다 사이 태과슬러도 즉 덕신다 된레기 계시 된레기다 떠줍셔야지 사이 태과세 미 태과세하들이야 패지 세쿨러 에틱트 패지대 용초를 삼천 거래.
So in this Lankavatara Sutra scripture, there is a mention of what the Buddha refers to as the spiritual vehicles of the celestial beings and the spiritual vehicles of the human beings. So in this context, one could identify the first one as those kind of spiritual practices that aims to attain some kind of status, future status in heaven or celestial realms. Whereas the second vehicle, spiritual vehicle, can in fact be interpreted as referring to some kind of spirituality that can be characterized as actually secular in the wider sense.
다는 지금 토미기 기부숨 기와 체인드잖아요. 기부춤을 팔바사 시행도와 디센티냐냐 삼단데.
So similarly, we find in Asanga's writings when he distinguishes between different mental capacities or mentalities of spiritual aspirants. He speaks of the three levels: the initial, the medium, and the advanced. And within the initial spiritual aspirants of the initial scope, he also talks about the preliminary stage where the spiritual practices goal is really confined to the well-being of this life.
So about my usual Varsity talk about the secular ethics, that's one level. Actually, the other day, as I mentioned the other day, the secular sort of ethics is the basis of all major religious tradition. Major religious tradition means religion with some kind of philosophical
Teachings.
Teachings like that. So, so now today about sort of religion with philosophical sort of background. Now here basically two categories. One religious group believe their philosophical base is concept of creator. Another group, they not based on the concept of creator, but rather concept of law of causality. That's quite similar, Darwinian theory. Some cause, condition, then you see the change, evolution, like that. So now, within each further sort of subdivisions, right?
Yeah.
Differences. Now, Buddhism belongs in the category, let's say the non-theistic. Then, within non-theistic, I think mainly very, very ancient on philosophical sort of tradition in India, there's Sangha philosophy. Within Sangha, two groups. One believe creator, one believe law of causality. That one. And then Jainism. No sort of concept of creator. Then Buddhism. These three of ancient Indian tradition, non-theistic religions. Now within three, the two non-Buddhist believe independent self. That is Sanskrit word, Atma, self, independent self, which all religions, except Buddhism, all religion, you see, except that soul, Atma or soul theory. Soul is something essentially separate entity. I think suppose when we're passing through different area, they got cemeteries. Cemeteries, a lot of cemeteries there. So suppose, perhaps I do not know very detailed, but till final judgment come, the soul remain in the coffin. Full rest. Maybe. So in any way, the soul theory, something essentially something different entity, so can sort of separate. Buddhists view no such sort of independent self, which separate entity from this body. No. If that is the case, then even you see the difficult to distinction male and female, male self, female self, or animal self, bird self, or human self, difficult. So self is something independent from the body. And also it's difficult to say old person, young person, sick person, educated person, a foolish person. Difficult to make distinction. Because self is something independent, absolute, no changing. So therefore, this Buddhist view is self is there. Selflessness does not mean no self. Self exists, but self is designated on the combination of body and mind, or 5 skandhas, like that. So, no independent, absolute self or permanent self, not there. So that means Buddhist concept of selflessness. Now, within Buddhism, historically, at the time of Buddha, historically, the Pali tradition, Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, these are the follower of the Pali tradition. They're wonderful. Then China, through China, Korea, Japan, Vietnam, one group. That's mainly the tradition of Sanskrit tradition. Then next, from India, directly to Tibet, and then through Tibet to Mongolia, and different sort of the area of Mongol tribes. The Mongol tribes now divided 3. One part of People's Republic of China, that's Inner Mongolia. Inner means closer to mainland China, therefore inner. The outer Mongolia, now independent Mongolia. And in the Russian Federation, they coming here, and then Buryat. Mongol tribe. The Tuva, they say Turks, but Buddhist community. All these, mainly these 3 republics in Russian Federation, are actually share same Buddhism Nalanda tradition, which we Tibetan, follow. And in fact, I think in different period, Buddhism reached in this area. So I think the 13th century, and then the 14th, 15th century.
15th, 16th.
15th, 16th century, the third Dalai Lama is a visit. Then actually the very name Dalai is a Mongolian word. You see, the Mongolian give that third Dalai Lama, Sonam Gyatso, you see, they give that kind of title. Title, or simply, you see,
the name.
Name, and then eventually that become like title. So therefore, in this area, they the chanting prayer in Tibetan, and also they study Tibetan through Tibetan. So top Mongolian scholars in the past, I think at least 1 or 2 centuries, I think top scholars from this area, who some study in Tibet and some study in their own country, become top scholars. I myself used to study many textbooks wrote by these Mongolian scholars. Wonderful, wonderful. So that's another group. So in Tibetan tradition, you see, since the essence of Pali tradition, that's mainly the Vinaya practice, the monastic
disciplinary texts.
And the celibacy. You see, that is a common practice. The monk from Sri Lanka or Thailand, Burma, when we discuss about Vinaya practice, all the major sort of practice or major precepts are exactly the same. I had one story, I think 2 to 3 years ago, in Australia, World Parliament, World Parliament of Religions. You see, they usually invite me. So one occasion in Melbourne, the international Parliament of Religion. You see, their meeting. You see, took there. You see, there are 2 Burmese monks. They sent a message. They want to meet me. So since I have sort of deep admiration about Burmese Buddhist tradition, of course, other so-called Theravada or the Pali tradition, I have deep admiration. But then Burmese, they also very much sort of emphasis about kasa,
in Vipassana.
Vipassana. One of my friends, you see, one Indian, Guingaji, you see, his sort of lineage come from Burma. So I have some knowledge or some admiration. So therefore, when I received that sort of request, then I put my own robe,
yellow
robe, and received these 2 monks from Burma. Then after we settled, these 2 monks mentioned to me, we are the follower of same teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. But we have many differences. And immediately I felt some of the Western authors describe Tibetan Buddhism as a Lamaism, not genuine Buddhism, something like that. And also many Tibetan Lamas, also, you see, sometimes they kept more importance about those sort of costumes were
costumes.
costumes given by Chinese emperor. That's more important than Buddha's sort of rule. According to Buddha's rule, monks should not wear sleeve. So some Tibetan Lama, when they receive some sort of rank from Chinese emperor, like Manchu emperor, which was
Sleeves.
sleeve. So they don't care about Buddha's sort of rule. They sort of wear these things, and some strange hat, and also these sort of different instrument. I often, you see, teaching Tibetans, the Tibetan monastery, and also Himalayan sort of range. They actually, what you call flute.
No, the flute, it's the clarinet, yeah.
That actually we call Gelling Chinese flute, not come from Nalanda. But we adopt these things. Then you see different sort of instrument. And then some lamas with wife and drink. So the Western, I think I may say that way, poor Western sort of researchers, on the surface impression, they concluded, this is not true Buddhism, but Lamaism. And then Tibetan also, due to ignorance, due to lack of knowledge about real sort of Buddhist teaching, Lama, reincarnated Lama, almost become sort of social status, not judging their inner quality or knowledge, just a name. So actually, great damage, you see, happened because of these sort of superficial sort of way. So I immediately, you see, felt, now the two respected Burmese monk have that kind of impression. Then I talk. Then we start talking about Vinaya practice, monasticism. Then become very clear. So all the major sort of precepts or practice is exactly the same. So then these two monks, you also have this practice. And I told them, yes, these are foundation of Buddha Dharma. Without that, how can practice sort of further, sort of higher sort of the practice? Impossible. So the Pali tradition, sometimes the people who come from so-called Mahayana tradition, then look, Hinayana or Theravada is something lower. That's wrong. The Theravada tradition is one of the branch of 4 different sort of
Vinaya traditions.
Vinaya traditions. We from Chandarakshita, 8th century, the Mula Savasiddhivatan tradition. Theravada from Kurgode, Pama, Nyawa Korek Sure. So our Mula Savasiddhivatan tradition come from Buddha's own son, Rahul, then Nagarjuna, and through that way, Chandarakshita. Chandarakshita brought to Tibet, and he gave ordination. So our sort of Vinaya ordination, our lineage is Mula Savasiddhivatan. And some Chinese tradition, the Dharmakutta, and some sort of different. They're actually subdivisions. Subdivision, 18 different branches in Vinaya practice, mainly 4. So due to little differences, for example, our precept, full ordained monk, our precept 253. Then Theravada tradition, about 220. So these differences, only minor things. For example, in Mula Savastavajan, Sanskrit Pratimoksha mentioned regarding lower garment, 7 points. Should not high above this, should not blow.
Ankle.
Ankle. And should not have too much sort of
Folds.
And also should not too long, this one, like that. So,
There's, of course, in Tibet, in the monasteries, sometimes there were monks referred to as the rogue monks who love having the upper fold really quite long.
In order to show, you see, their lower garment is quite big. Silly. Actually, you see, prohibited in Vinaya Sutra, but they don't care. So like that, you see, 7 points in our Pratimoksha. The Theravada, Pali Pratimoksha is mentioned just one. You should keep properly lower garment. If not, then 1%. These are minor. But the main precepts out of 253 main precepts, exactly same. Eating.